volunteered exactly what you do if there's no legislation. So this task is to try and find an answer to that question. Keep going. Finally, the Ethics Board has been asked already to look at what it has written about the circumstances that result in an inadvertent violation to a rule in the code. The bigger your firm is, but even small firms can inadvertently contravene one of the requirements of the code. And the question is, so what do you do? The code now says you reverse the problem as fast as you can. You consider if you have to tell anybody, and you consider in the public interest how should you proceed? Continue, change. The regulators around the world say, first thing you should do is come and tell us, the regulator, that you have accidentally gone offside because while you're doing this audit, I'm looking at my colleague Assad here in the front row with an international firm, while you're doing this audit here in Pakistan, one of your partners in the United States has bought a share in your client. And whether it was inadvertent or it was because the grandmother gave a godchild or grandchild one share, you have legally broken the rule of independence. So what should you do? It wasn't done consciously, it might not be something that you can tell the grandmother that she must take this share back and not give it to your grandchild, her grandchild. So there are lots of situations where these inadvertent violations happen, and we need to come up with some better description of how to deal with them. And we need to explain to those who think that the first and only solution is resignation from the client, that there are better and fairer solutions in the public interest. Now, this is not to protect the auditor in place, but this is generally to protect the client in the public interest. It is no good having your firm, because of this transaction that takes place somewhere around the world, and finding out that you have inadvertently broken the independence rules, saying, A, well, it doesn't matter. It does matter, in principle it matters. But B, saying, well, we must resign, because that's the only honorable thing to do. And that's where some of the regulators around the world are. You must resign. So the purpose of this project is to try and think of an alternative, and a better way of discussing this and describing this and consulting with the regulators around the world on the solution. Is there anybody from the SEC regulator here in the audience? So I can say, well, you know how understanding regulators are. Can't. Yeah, right. Let me go to my last subject. I have one slide. Corporate governance. As your president already mentioned, and as I had the privilege of meeting earlier on, the two gentlemen who were your founders in developing your code of corporate governance in your country, and they're sitting almost side by side. They're only separated by one person, so they still obviously agree on most of what was in that code. You are leaders in a number of ways. You're leaders because, first and foremost, ICAB has the credibility to be seen as able to write a code like this, or to lead the development of a code like this. You have no idea how few of the 150 member bodies of IFAC, how few of them have the credibility within their own countries to suggest that they should be the people to do this. It would be, you could count on one finger of one hand. I can only think of this institute. There are a number of others who are trying to do this. Yes, you should applaud yourselves, because it is a very special achievement. I had the privilege of being on a podium with Assad in Geneva 10 days ago. Time flies. 3 countries ago, I've forgotten where we both have been since then, where we were doing an IFAC and UNCTAD presentation, and of course Assad is the chairman of UNCTAD's ISAR program this year. Again, recognizing Pakistan's contribution in the global activities. And we had a 2-day seminar to talk about what is the role of accountants? What is the role of accountants in this area of corporate governance? I think what became very clear is that we do have a role, but we're not the only persons and players that have a role in this, as your own code says. So you've got it right, and what I think the simple answer for IFAC is to take your code, write it in terrible American English, and then publish it. We write everything in American English as an institution, so that's not what we're going to do, because we don't want to duplicate things that people have done. And what became very, very clear in the two-day seminar we had is that corporate structures, regulation, the way business operates is so unique to one nation and one jurisdiction that the idea of being able to develop a global corporate code doesn't seem to be the smart thing to do. But what we do think is a good idea is to try and think about, those of you who might have read a publication that we put out about 3 years ago on the financial reporting supply chain, where we talked about who are all the players who are involved from developing the financial statements, regulating them, auditing them, oversight, audit committees, all the players, what was their role in the financial reporting supply chain. Is there a model of saying, well, what's the corporate governance supply chain? Who are all the players? In a generic 30,000 foot level, who are all the players, and what should be their respective roles? And if anybody in any jurisdiction, in any national country wants to develop a code, it should involve all of those players. And clearly accountants have a role, whether they're accountants as preparers, accountants as audit committee members, or accountants as auditors, or accountants as regulators. They all have a role. So we will be coming to the IFAC board, Mr. Boardman, sir, down there. We will be coming to the IFAC board with some proposals that came out of this, and we will see where the IFAC board goes with reacting to our proposals. But it will be a combination of information gathering, it will be a combination of information sharing, and the one area that it became very clear is that corporate governance, this is a hint, I'm down to 7%, I'm about to leave before my slides die. Okay. You know what's good is that Arnold's coming up next, and you've only got 7% power now, Arnold, so you're going to have to talk really fast. And everybody else wants me out the way anyway. So one of the things we believe is that there is a new model of financial reporting being considered, which is more than just financial reporting. It is how do we report to shareholders of companies about good corporate governance and how the company is looking to maintain the integrity and sustainability of the company in the longer term. So how do you combine the financial reporting and the corporate social responsibility reporting or the sustainability reporting that some companies are doing and some companies in your own country are doing? Right now, companies who do this do it in 2 booklets or 2 packages, even if they put them in 1 booklet. There's a call and a suggestion that this has to be integrated. And the suggestion is that I will never see this in my business life. So it's the problem of those of you who just graduated recently and your gold medalist I saw written up in this magazine of yours this month. It's going to be her problem to work out and to deal with a fuller set of reporting where you not only deal with the financial reporting, but in the same report you discuss the corporate social responsibility elements. We call it integrated reporting. Now IFAC's taking a role in this. We have our president and our chief executive on a steering committee that's working with the Prince of Wales of the United Kingdom's Accounting for Sustainability project and the Global Reporting Initiative, all of whom are thinking we have to take this idea that's being developed into a global framework. And my guess is that if we think we understand financial reporting now, then in 20 years' time we will have to relearn everything because it'll look totally different. And part of that is that good corporate governance requires you to do more than think just about the financial numbers. So there's a number of activities, I think, where we will be looking to you for leadership, because in many ways your institute are leaders in this and have put a lot of work in as an institute, and you can rely on your member on the IFAC board to make sure that IFAC doesn't forget, and he's never let us forget. He's very proud of it, and so he should be. He's never let us forget about the work you've done. And I was going to say, you need